Well, have you been to a satanic marriage? I mean, have the ceremony?
Sure.
What was it like?
I've conducted them.
You married people
Sure.
in the name of Satan.
If you want to use that terminology,
Well,
yeah.
what did they
it would
do?
be
I mean,
satanic.
Well,
I mean,
It varies.
What I'm
Each
trying to-
marriage
we've all
is
seen
different.
seen Christian wedding ceremonies,
Right.
so we know the philosophical frame of reference in which that occurs, but we don't know philosophically what's happening.
Well, a satanic marriage is usually they're considerably smaller, more intimate, and because you have a gathering of people who are completely for you, and each one is different from the other. We don't have a set rule as to what the marriage will
Unlike
consist
the
of.
Christian church that has an assembly line idea, a certain dogma is read, two people agree to it, you are now part of the Christian community in marriage. We feel that each individual should form a union with whoever they wish to.
But of course, Nicholas, that's because in Christianity there is a prior philosophical commitment as to what marriage represents. And so what I'm saying
marriage
is...
to us, to Satanism in brief, marriage represents what you want it to represent. We believe each individual is entitled to decide what their life should consist of. There is no bond to any supernatural entity.
And even to decide if you even want to be married at all.
Marriage is not mandatory, nor is... Nothing is mandatory.
Would you marry two lesbians?
I personally do not believe that homosexuality is a natural practice any more than you do. And I don't...
Would you marry them if they thought it was and wanted to be? I mean, Anton LaVey, the Satanic Bible certainly condones it.
They would certainly be able to marry themselves and consider themselves married.
Well, it may sound like an absurd question, but suppose Joe wants to marry his golden retriever. If we're all animals, I mean, can Joe conceivably marry his dog?
Speaking for the Werewolf Order, which is my organization in particular, we do not feel that homosexuality is a healthy or natural or safe or hygienic practice.
But you're contradicting Anton in the Satanic Bible.
No. What I would agree with him in this sense, that I do not prescribe any moral onus against it. What I'm saying is do whatever you want to do, but accept the consequences that come with it. And
well, you're not answering the question about the golden retriever, and I'm not...
No, I don't. I believe bestiality is as repugnant to me as it is to you, but not for moral reasons, but because of natural reasons.
But earlier you said we're all animals. I mean, an animal's an animal.
Well,
so
animals,
what's the difference?
Animals don't breed.
A wouldn't mate with a Siamese cat.
Yeah, only humans.
So neither would a human
only humans who are so neurotic that they break the natural law.
Without getting too intellectual here, you do have some
yes, I have a strong
differentiation.
See, that's something
that in effect you're not willing to call morals, but in effect places you as a human animal on a higher rung of evolution's ladder, giving you certain priorities over what you do to the rest.
No, absolutely not. In fact, I believe that animals should be protected by humans, as it is our duty as the inheritors of the earth to protect the ecology, to protect wildlife, and satanic ecology is forefront on our agenda. We need to protect the earth that we live on and our natural environment.
Let's talk about a worship service. Okay, you have sexual rituals, compassionate rituals, and destructive rituals.
And many more. Those are three.
Well, those are the three main ones Anton talks about.
In the Satanic Bible.
Zena, these are the three put forth in the Satanic Bible. Describe them. Destruction ritual. What is a destruction ritual?
Well, we believe in vengeance. We don't believe in turning the other cheek. You keep turning the other cheek and you run out of cheeks. We feel that if you are wronged in some way, that you take it out with the person responsible, whether that's directly or indirectly, whether that's actually going to the person and addressing the problem or the issue specifically, or whether it's working it out through ritual.
May I ask, before you go on, have you never had an experience in your life, I certainly have, where I felt I was wronged by someone else, only as I matured later in life to discover, in fact, that in that circumstance I was the one who was wrong and it was my own selfish ego that placed upon it the imprimatur of saying I was wrong.
We have-
So that, but what I'm saying is, if you claim the right to get even with anyone at any time, what if you're wrong? What if you do a destruction ritual?
Well, how do you know that you were wrong?
And what's wrong with your selfish ego? I would think your selfish ego is a healthier gauge of reality than some
If you
moral
live-
system found
I
in a
would think it's very
2,000-year-old
blinding
book.
because,
If
in
you
fact,
live by instinct,
We're
how could that be
again,
blinding?
we're getting back to our animal natures. We are beasts, and we decide from gut instinct whether we have been
Well, I
wronged
always
or
think-
not.
I always
excuse
think
me,
it's
you've never done,
interesting. No, wait a
you've
second.
never
Let me
done
give you
anything
an
wrong
example.
and
If
thought you were right?
Let's back up even further. Maybe if what you were experiencing was some youthful ego thing that you think you were wrong, what about infants that are passed from one relative to another and they're fine and they get to one person and they just start screaming and there's something there that's wrong and an infant can sense it. Is that infant reacting wrong? Is that a wrong reaction? Well, I would say that on a much more simplistic level, that is the way we react. If we instinctively feel that something's not right, we have to go by gut intuition.
What if you're wrong? What if you're
Gut
wrong?
What is
Intuition
wrong
isn't
and right?
wrong.
And in our case, we are making up our reality. We decide what's right and wrong.
What
You
is
are
wrong?
letting the Bible or Jesus Christ or whatever God may be
Even
decide.
common sense. I mean, even leaving God out of it to suggest that you can make up your own reality. My goodness, that's what they did in Tiananmen Square. That's what they did in Germany in 1933. I mean,
And that's what
these-
they're doing in America in
these are examples of
1989.
people who created their own reality.
Everyone creates their own reality. The thing is, you speak for a consensus of reality which is acceptable. We speak for one which at this point in history is not acceptable.
Well,
So it's just a question of who manipulates the media, who has the most money to put their reality forth.
But would you pardon me saying that I find a world in which your ability to conjure your own reality as you perceive it to be a very frightening world for people like me. Because you see, I'm guided by some codified rules that tell me what is right and wrong. In your world, I'm not so sure I would feel very safe.
You would see that's your
maybe-
problem. You have in the satanic world of the future, Christian churches will be allowed to continue because they pose no threat to us. We don't need Christianity. Christianity needs us.
Sure.
So we'll let it.
Christianity is
Sure.
built on
Tell that to
fear.
the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. Why, we're not going to put you in gas ovens. We're not going to kill you. We just want you to wear
Oh,
an
no,
armband
no, I'm not
for now.
saying that.
I mean,
On
we
the-
just want you.
No.
But
I'm not saying
Hitler-
I'm a humanitarian.
Hitler-
Don't try to whitewash
Hitler
me.
created a reality. Was it evil?
Hitler was a masterful black magician, of course. He created a reality. Was it evil? I'm telling you that I don't believe in good and evil, and nor can anyone decide what is good and evil. It's all based on historical and cultural values. In my point of view, the Christian religion is evil, in quotes, because it is negative.
Nicholas, I'm not a Jewish survivor of Buchenwald sitting here with a number tattooed on my arm. If I were, frankly, I'd be incensed. I'd be outraged that you suggest.
Well, they are
Outraged
they are
at a lot of
incensed and
things we
outraged.
say.
They're incensed and
You're
outraged.
not willing
every
to
day.
say Hitler was evil.
Absolutely not, because I'm not
What-
going to
what
bow down to
purpose
your
would
level
that
of good
serve?
and evil. That's so primitive.
Pardon?
I'm telling
What
the human
purpose
race.
would that serve? You want us to give you these lines.
I'm
that have
telling you,
been
you
fed
have to
to
decide
us.
for yourself.
No,
If
no,
you,
no,
If
no.
you
I'm asking. No,
examine
no. I'm
history-
asking for parrots.
You want rules.
No, you do.
You want rules.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you just a fundamental question of social colloquy in regards to how human beings treat one another. And
100 years ago, Napoleon was considered the devil incarnate, the most evil person who ever lived. Now he's forgotten. Everything changes with cultural tides. Morals change with the weather.
Well,
you
now-
can't say something is good or evil. You can only look at human behavior from a realistic perspective.
Well,
So
yes,
if you
yes.
really want to look at what is evil, The book that you have sitting right there is probably the prescription for
The
more
Bible?
evil.
The Holy
That's
Bible.
right.
And
has
if you can
caused
tell me
more
this is untrue,
bloodshed
tell me.
throughout history.
Exactly.
In the name of
more people have
Christianity.
died because of the Christian church in the past 2,000 years of its
It was
dominance.
the Spanish Inquisition.
Well,
evil.
hang on. You got
I'm
off
not saying
Hitler
there's-
here. You sidestepped Hitler.
No, let's talk
Oh,
about
okay.
Hitler.
Let's
Whatever you want to talk about.
We'll talk about this in a second.
Let's
but
talk about the Bible. Let's
Fine,
talk about
let's-
Hitler. Let's
let-
talk
let's-
about everything.
I don't want to
And
misquote
why-
you. In
but
fairness
also,
to
I think
you,
it's interesting. Why do we focus so much on Hitler?
Why are you so fascinated with sex and
I think
Hitler?
this is
and-
very
I'm not
interesting.
fascinated with
But
sex,
these
and
are
I'm
the
not
things that you-
fascinated with Hitler. No, I'm not.
Because
sir.
you keep bringing up
No,
the
no, 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 no.
Holocaust
See,
and the
these wouldn't
survival.
be
I'm
a-
sorry,
These are juicy
but
topics for you to address.
those types
And
of,
so is Satanism.
of ad hominem arguments really don't make it in a debate. Okay, I mean that's that's intellectually
Well, what-
dishonest, and you're a brilliant man, and even you know that.
What do you want to get
What
at
I'm
then?
asking
What's the
you-
issue of
well,
our debate?
The issue is, and I'm wanting to be fair to you. I'm not
Well,
wanting
I-
to put words in your mouth or misquote you. You're saying, are you then saying that what Hitler did to 6 million Jews cannot be morally quantified and called evil? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not, nor can any act of any human being or animal be judged good or evil. There is
You
no
agree
such
with that,
thing as
Zena?
good or
Yes,
evil.
I agree with that, because if you look at every war, no matter whether it was the Third Reich or whether it was the Spanish Inquisition or any war, any movement has always caused bloodshed.
Whoever won
There
the
is
war
always-
decided what evil was.
And then the victors wrote history. So you always have to keep that in mind.
If King George had won the American Revolution, George Washington would be remembered as one of the great evil tyrants of all time. History decides what is good and evil.
now
So
what
if
we're
Hitler had
seeing-
won,
If Hitler had won, obviously, your school books would say Hitler was good, everything else is evil. It's so relative that why can't we,
Well,
why can't the
there's a
human
difference.
race
There's a difference
step
here.
out of this
There's 6
primitive
million
argument of good and evil?
6 million corpses.
What about Stalin
What about
and 10
Stalin
million
and 10
Polish?
million?
Let's talk about.
What
Let's
about
talk
the
about it.
Ukrainians?
Sure.
Why is there
Let's
only
talk about
one?
the Ukrainians.
Why is there only one Holocaust, one evil?
Was Stalin?
What about in El
was
Salvador? There are
was
millions of people
Stalin's
dying right now.
Slaughtering of the Ukrainians through famine a malicious act of evil?
There's no such thing as evil. It was a typical act of a human being. And if you want to look at human history from the day that we came from the primordial swamp that creation began in, what you're calling evil is part of human nature.
That's part of evolution also.
How many? Now,
what
what about the millions of people who were killed in Europe, accused of being witches, children and women burnt at the stake, while crowds of good, pious Christians gathered around and watched them burn for a
It was
Sunday
evil.
celebration?
I will call that evil.
I won't call it evil. I'll say
I
it's
will
human
call it
nature.
evil. I will call it evil, and I will take
Well,
it a
then-
step further to say that it was philosophically the antithesis and totally inconsistent with what the Bible teaches.
Well, maybe the problem is
Now, hang on. What Nazism did to the Jews was philosophically consistent with the occult Aryan ideas of Hitler. So what I'm saying is,
well, that's
the
what you're
witch-
deciding because you're a Christian in 1989. The Christian church rulership in the 1600s would think you were a heretic for saying such things. So all I'm telling you is morality is a relative issue, and nobody can decide what is good and evil.
is murder relative?
Murder is absolutely relative. When I say we, I mean the American government sent our troops to Vietnam to kill people. Was it evil? Were those good murderers? Are there good murderers if they're wearing a soldier's uniform and bad murderers if they're not?
Would you say that to the mother of Sharon Tate?
Yes, I would say that to
You
the mother of
would?
Sharon Tate. In fact,
Or do you want to let Charlie Manson out of prison?
that's a whole other issue.
Do you? Do you
Charles
think
Manson,
he deserves to be let out of prison?
Charles Manson, for one thing, I don't believe is guilty of the crimes he's been accused of. But that's a whole other
You're
issue.
kidding.
Well, how
No.
much do you really know
How much do
about
you
all
know
of
about
these
Charles
things that you're
Manson? How
talking
much
about?
do you know about Hitler?
Well,
How much do you know about
now wait a
anything?
minute. Zena, Charlie has pretty well made his philosophy known. I mean, he's spoken clearly and openly. And there's no denial on his part of his role in the Tate LaBianca murders, that he sent those people in that
he's never
house
said
to
any such
commit a
thing.
bloodbath.
Where'd you hear that? I can show
Now,
you
it's
20
very
years of
pinpoint
quotes.
where you've heard
where
that.
he
Are
said-
you saying that Charlie Manson is a rational mind? Are you saying this man is not a murderous psychotic? Is that what you're saying?
By your point of view, of course not.
Now, you see, what I find
is that-
interesting
Go ahead.
is my father is now suddenly lumped into these ranks, because all around me I hear now that my father is just like Manson and just like Hitler, and now I'm beginning
No, I
to
didn't say that.
question.
No,
you
you
don't.
didn't. You
You
didn't.
don't.
Many people
But this
do.
is a common opinion, and now I'm beginning to question why. Why is my father so much like Manson, and why is he considered so much like Hitler, and why is he considered so much like even Rasputin, who completely turned the Russia upside down? And now I'm beginning to realize that maybe there are two sides to every story, and maybe if you examine the other sides that you don't hear about, you learn something that is a little more illuminating.
Zena, I don't find it terribly surprising that there should be some analogies between your father and people like Rasputin. It seems pretty reasonable to me in terms of the ideology that he set forth. It really is a get yours first, don't look out for the other guy, Machiavellian kind of philosophy.
Well, that's right. But also you were referring to other people in history that I was saying you have to consider both sides of every story.
There's
and
another
now,
side to Hitler?
do you think there's only one side to anything?
Guy killed 6 million people.
And that's all you know. And that's all you have to
No,
know.
I know much more about Hitler than that, but in terms of determining his moral place in history, I don't have any
Now,
problem.
we're
Who
in the same
determines the moral
position.
place? Who determines it? Who has the right to determine what is good and evil?
Well, of course, I would respond from the standpoint of the Christian ethic, but even a humanist sitting in this chair.
I don't like humanists any more than Christians.
You don't
because
like humanists either?
Humanists, you have to understand this once and for all. Christians must know Satanism is not humanism. Humanism is based on Christian ethics and ideas. It just doesn't have Christ, but it has the same appalling ideas about equality, love for everybody, indiscriminate love for all living things, and we oppose those ideas.
Altruism, humanitarianism,
Humanism
all that
and
type of stuff.
Christianity are in bed together. They're the same thing. There's
Well,
no
the
difference.
humanists might not appreciate that, but I
Of
hear
course
where
they
you're coming
wouldn't.
from.
Of course
Neither
they
would
wouldn't.
a white witch
And
or
as
a
far as
neo-pagan
as
or-
far as I'm concerned, there's Satanism, and then there's other people.
Yeah, your father in the satanic rituals really puts out some zingers at the witches who want to be white witches. He says there really is no such thing. A witch is a witch is a witch.
That's right. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Now there's where I do agree with your father. Yes.
I mean,
I think
throughout
you would
history-
find that you do agree on a lot of principles with the satanic philosophy. If you clearly understood and looked at it, we are saying that the act
well, I
of
don't know if I'd carry that
in
far.
the sense that the act of manipulating and using the will and using ritual to create change is, by any definition, satanic. And anyone who does that is at least an ipso facto Satanist. So these
Well, you're-
witches that say they're good witches, white witches, nice witches, are as hypocritical as a Christian to me.
Your father also says in the Satanic Witch, quote, of psychics who say, God gave me the gift. These people are playing the devil's game, but refusing to use the devil's name. You
Well,
agree?
that's right. Wouldn't you consider any form of divination or faith healing or tarot
Divination
reading?
is biblically forbidden. I would consider it to be satanic.
So we would say that anything that would fall under that category would be considered satanic. And it's not just us. I mean, this has been throughout history. And predating Christianity, there have always been those who have veered from the mainstream, whatever that mainstream was, who have gone out in the wilderness and built shacks to live in, to be away from the mainstream and live their own lives the way they feel they ought to.
Well, the
those-
one thing I can say, you Satanists are certainly more honest than most witches when it comes to acknowledging the
you might not
authenticity,
like what
the
we
reality
have to
of what
say,
you're
but
doing.
we're not, as I was saying, you might not like what we have to say, but we are honest. I mean, we don't claim to be anything that we aren't.
Well, speaking of honesty, before we get off Charlie Manson, Do you want to talk about what happened August 8, 1988 in San Francisco?
Well, I wrote a book called The Manson File, and I've interviewed Charles Manson.
I want to talk about the ritual you held in the theater.
Yeah. Nicholas coordinated that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And when the movie showed...
Let me explain what happened. The Other Side of Madness, a film that was made in 1970, an exploitation film, was shown. And of course, as everyone has reported in the national media, the audience cheered during the murder sequence.
Well, this is a bloody murder sequence. I mean, this was when Sharon Tate's body is slit open and her
right.
child, her unborn child, is removed. And
No, that didn't happen, but that's a fine point. But yes, it was a bloody murder.
The audience cheered.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas,
have you been to a Friday the 13th movie?
Unfortunately, but yeah, Nicholas, you're sitting there so calmly.
What do you want me to do? Cry? What do you want me to do? Have remorse and break down in tears?
This is what I find interesting.
What is the proper reaction
you won't
from a
say
Christian
that Hitler is evil. You sit there calmly. You want us...
What do you want? What's the right thing to do from the Christian point of view? Should I moan and whine about it?
Isn't this what you expect
We're
of
looking at
us?
human nature. If you can't accept it, that's your problem. I can.
Murder is always part of human nature.
Is it wrong? Is it
Always
wrong?
has.
Is it wrong to
What
murder?
is wrong?
Are you going to change it?
Is it wrong to murder?
Is it
Zena,
wrong
is it
to-
wrong to murder?
As it says in the Satanic Bible, can you love the blood-splashed jaws that rend you limb from limb? Is that wrong? Can you love and feel...
You haven't answered me.
I
Is it
am
wrong?
answering you.
Is it wrong to murder?
Depends
Will
on the
you answer me
circumstances.
and
No, you answer the question. Is it wrong to murder?
what is wrong?
We're
Murder is part of life.
We're telling you, we don't believe
I mean,
in good, evil, right, wrong dichotomy. If I come at you and you kill me in self-defense, is it wrong? Should you sacrifice
What is
yourself?
murder?
No, wait a minute.
Murder can't be
That's not murder.
Murder is no more wrong. Well, there, you're deciding.
Murder
what
is no more
okay,
wrong
then
than
you're
what?
deciding,
You're deciding
what
what
murder
it is. What is it then? Define everything if you
All
want
I'm
to
saying
debate
is
it
there
clearly.
always has
Zena, we
been
got
murder.
6,000 years of human history to define what murder is.
That's right. So how are we
Killing
going to
is a
define it
part of
here?
animal behavior. Humans do it
Well, now,
more
you
than
see,
others.
I don't really believe that I would need to worry about walking down a dark alley and being followed by either of you
Absolutely
with
right.
a gun in your pocket. But what you have just said,
Let me finish.
Let me finish. What you have just said, articulated to the masses, particularly in a dysfunctional society where people are filled with all types of anger and rage because of past abuses, what you're really doing, I think, is potentially lighting a fuse. I'm not worried that you're going to pull a gun out of your pocket and shoot me in front of these cameras,
what we're
but
saying
I
is we
don't.
take
Let
But
me-
I don't know
why
that somebody
society
else
is
might
the
not
way
do
it
that
is.
because of what you said. You're not willing to condemn murder.
Let me answer your questions in 3 points. The masses. We have no regard for the masses. Satanism is a religion for the elite. It is a religion for leaders. It's a religion for competent people. It's not a religion for anyone who wants to be a Satanist. We don't say welcome
The
to the
homeless,
club.
the handicapped, those with
I don't
multiple
care.
sclerosis
I don't
need not
want the
apply.
homeless, the handicapped.
The
That's
people
your
in
job.
Mother Teresa's home
You've
for the dying and the
you've take-
destitute, they need not apply.
I don't want
Why
them. You've
should they?
taken that on your shoulders. That's your job. You're doing a great job with the homeless. You help everyone. We're helping those who help themselves, as it says in your Bible. And you can take the weak.
No, it doesn't say that in the Bible.
You can take the decrepit. You can take people who can't help themselves. We don't want them. It's simple. It's very
All we're
simple.
saying is if
The
you,
homeless you don't want to shelter?
No, I don't want to shelter people who can't take care of themselves. Why
You
can't
shelter
they?
The hungry, the
homeless
starving,
and you
you don't
have
want to
more.
feed? Gina, go ahead, Gina. What were you saying?
That produces more of the same. There has to be some change. If you look at the animal kingdom, how is the animal kingdom able to survive? There is no such thing as homeless.
Back to social Darwinism again. In the animal kingdom, you preserve what is strong.
Hang on.
You give more food to the stronger animal.
Until humans
you don't
intervene
feed the
and start
weaker
killing
one.
the
I'm
animals.
trying to...
There's no welfare in
Nicholas,
the animal
I'm
world.
trying to remain as academically detached as I possibly can.
It's not an academically
But what you're
detached
saying
question.
is so absolutely disgustingly outrageous. Now,
And
just
to me-
just wait a minute. Let me.
To you,
To me,
Zena,
it's disgustingly outrageous
Zena.
that you would help these weak people who are draining our resources, who are causing so many problems. We could be doing positive things in the world.
Zena, I want to ask
These
you,
weaklings are taking away
Yeah,
all of our
well,
energy
that's-
and
that's-
resources. And you've decided to help them. That's disgusting to me.
You've never been to a refugee camp.
Why would I possibly want to go to a refugee camp?
Zena, I've been
You have
there.
this
I wanna
masochistic
ask Zena.
love for
She's a woman.
weakness.
And what do you think that'll gain you?